Often it's hard for women to sell on the internet, or at least think that it's hard, is because of just that feeling of vulnerability. Well, hey friends, welcome back to the podcast. We're going to talk about one of my favorite topics today, which is selling. And in particular, we're going to talk about why do women feel so slimy about selling? So, okay. Sometimes on my Instagram stories, I'll say, hey guys, how can I help you with questions? And I'll put a question box. And sometimes you guys leave me hanging with crickets. And other times I get tons and tons of questions. When I do get tons and tons of questions, a lot of times I will get the question about selling. How can I show up and sell without feeling gross? How can I do, I have a hard time talking about my product. I don't want to pressure people, et cetera, et cetera. There's lots of variations of that question. And so the one I got the other day said, how can I enjoy sales? I get so much anxiety over it that I get stuck and can't do it. So I wanted to respond to that, but in a public way, here on the podcast, because a lot of you, the majority of you that are listening, you have a business, which means you have to sell. Like literally you do. And can I also just say this? I think it would be so helpful if we would just change how we think about selling. Like the truth is, we're selling inside of our own home all day, every day. I'm selling my kids on the idea of Jesus. I'm selling my daughter on the idea that school starts in 2 weeks and we've got to get back into a schedule. I'm selling them on the idea of trying green beans for dinner. I mean, we are in the business of sales already, which is essentially just, trying to get people to see things in a way that we see them. But in business, you're doing it for the exchange of money versus with your children, like the exchange of, they do what you want them to do. Does that make sense? That might've been a weird analogy, but I believe my own analogy. Okay. So when we're talking about women feeling slimy about selling, I have a lot of things to say. Okay. So the reason I think sometimes women can feel so weird about selling is that a lot of us have been trained to dislike salespeople. So we feel like, okay, if I have to sell, this cute jewelry, then I'm a salesman. If I have to sell my coaching program, then I'm a salesperson. And we've been trained a lot of times from a very early age to dislike salespeople. We literally, probably a lot of you listening have used the terminology slimy salesman, or they remind me of a used car salesman. I mean, how many of you were raised in a house where you heard that, or you heard that growing up, or you yourself have said it? If you're watching me on YouTube right now, if you would just comment below, just say me or something. It helps me to know that people are actually watching on YouTube. So thank you. And so that can stem from a very early age. And I think too, that when we're thinking about salespeople, we have been often conditioned to watch for the bait and switch. And the truth is, the majority of the world, we dread the haggling. We hate that. So if you're going in to, let's say, buy a car, since that's what we were just talking about, the majority of the time, not always, but the majority of the time, that there can be some negotiating. When you're buying and selling a house, there can be negotiating. And so the majority of us don't really like negotiation. That's just the truth. And I would go as far as to say, I think most women, not all, of course, but most women don't like negotiation. And so I think we've been conditioned to anticipate negotiation, which we don't like. And so then we don't want to do that to other people, right? Even though what we're selling, we're not going to negotiate on. But we've also been conditioned just to be prepared for that bait and switch. When you go to, you're buying something online, for instance, and it's maybe not a bait and switch, but it's wait, there's more. You bought this course, but wait, you can also upgrade to this. You bought these knives. Well, wait, you can also upgrade with this. And so I think that is really a turnoff to a lot of people. Another reason that I think that women can really dislike sales, and I'm going to say this in the most gentle way possible, is sometimes I think if females try to make purchases in a heavily male-dominated industry, like maybe it's, construction. I'm going to use myself as a personal example. When I have been in the middle of demoing Bougie on the Beach or Boozy in the Desert, which are both of our Airbnbs and VRBOs, this has happened to me. So in the construction industry, which is mostly male dominated, there have been times when I feel like I'm being talked down to or manipulated, or I don't know what the heck I'm talking about. And there would be some people who would call that being mansplained. And this is not me being anti-men or hating men, because I'm the very opposite of that. Okay. I love the men in my world. Was raised with all brothers, having the most amazing husband. in the planet. And I'm raising two boys. So there's that. Okay. So if you feel like you, or maybe you've, tried to buy a vehicle and that's, mostly a male dominated industry and that hasn't gone well, it can leave a bad taste in your mouth. It can leave a bad taste in your mouth. So then you're a business person, right? And it comes then to where you've got bad taste in your mouth about selling, but then over in your business, like you have to sell, you have to launch your coaching program. You have to talk about your one-on-one consulting for health and wellness. You need to be posting about the products that you have for sale, but we don't like doing it because we don't want to be the one that other people perceive as slimy or manipulative. So, and I think there's this thing too, where there are times when all of us have probably felt like we've been taken advantage of. We have purchased something that then we had buyer's remorse for. We wondered how we were so foolish to fall for it. And so we don't want to be the person that is doing that to other people, right? And so it's no wonder that when we get into business, sometimes it's hard for us to sell because we have negative feelings that are associated with selling or with salespeople. So that's one whole thing. Then we got another whole side of it, which is this. I think often it's hard for women to sell on the internet, or at least think that it's hard, is because of just that feeling of vulnerability that gets stirred up. There are so many people that feel like, okay, if I put my coaching program out on the internet, it feels like I'm standing on the internet naked. And there's so many people that think, well, what if I post about it and there's crickets in the comments, which, by the way, a lot of times there's going to be crickets in the comments, because if you're selling something, so let's say you have a membership group for teenagers with eating disorders. I'm thinking about one of the women that was in my mastermind. And so let's say you have a membership group for that and you post about it, go sign up here, and nobody comments. And then you're feeling like super vulnerable because you've got crickets. The truth is, if you're asking people to leave Facebook or Instagram and go over to your website, over to your landing page, what you want for them to do is actually check out. If they don't come back to social media and say, hey, I bought, or hey, I checked out, or hey, I can't wait, like, don't worry about that. The whole intention of a sales post is to get sales. If that's happening, just go with it. Okay. And so, but I do think that it makes people feel super vulnerable. The thought of like, well, what if I post or I send an email and nobody buys? And then what? I mean, when you are putting something for sale on the internet, it feels like what you're doing is you're offering like your social media platforms and your email list. Like, this is my business baby. I just need somebody to tell me it's cute and somebody to tell me that this is going to work. And so it can feel really yucky. And I get that. And I think on the flip side of that, so we're worried, or not the flip side, but we're worried about what if, no one buys, but I think we're also could be worried about, okay, what if I'm selling people a course or a coaching program or a consulting package and they purchase it and then I can't help get them a result? What if I can't hold up my end of the deal? What if I don't really know what I'm talking about? And also imposter syndrome in terms of like, what are other people going to think, which really isn't imposter syndrome, by the way. What is my sister-in-law going to think? What are the girls that I haven't even talked to since high school, but we're still Facebook friends, going to think? And so we get all up into our feelings. Who can resonate with this right now? Please just let me know in the comments if that's you. And so the truth is, sometimes it's just easier not to put things up for sale. And so how do you balance that? How do we sell things? Because that's what you have to do if you're in business, when selling feels really yucky to you. And so I've decided to do this in a 2-part video series. This video, I just wanted to talk about maybe why you're feeling the resistance to selling. And in the next video, I'm going to help you figure out how you can like change your mindset and how you can get better at doing sales. So make sure that you subscribe to the podcast. It's going to be dropping next. It's going to be the next video in the next couple of days. I want to make sure that you listen to that because that's going to help you change your mind about selling. Okay. All right. Bless you, friends. We've got this. Bye-bye. Did I just say we've got this? We've got what? I don't know what we've got.